Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome. This is Chris from T3 Handicapping, and we are here to go over the late pick 5 from Churchill Downs on Sunday, November 21st, 2021. I just want to say another big thank you to all of you for continuing to watch and join the members portal, which you can do from our website. It's great to see you guys enjoying the product and tuning in and being a part of this. It's always fun for me, and I enjoy seeing it pay off for you as well. So let's go ahead and let's handicap this late pick 5 on Sunday, November 21st from Churchill. As always, if you need to find us, you can do so on YouTube right here, both live streams like we're doing right now, as well as on-demand videos. You can find our Facebook page, T3 Handicapping, and that's on Facebook. You can click on there and get all kinds of exclusives and updates about what's going on. And then Twitter as well, at Handicapping T3. Go ahead and give me a follow there, and you can follow along with some of our information there as well. If you're looking to get into the membership portal, that gives you access to all of our different tracks. That means Gulfstream, Churchill, Del Mar, Aqueduct. We're going to be adding Mahoning Valley this week, Finger Lakes as well. You basically get all of our tracks for the rest of the month, so you can go and purchase that on our website. Just $5 gets you the rest of November, and then we will have monthly and yearly subscriptions after that. Stay tuned. There will be a Black Friday deal coming up here in the next week or so, you don't want to miss that. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's actually jump into some things here. This is just a quick preview of the entire card. As you can see, for Sunday, we have Aqueduct, Churchill, Gulfstream, and Del Mar all available. So if you're looking to play those other tracks, make sure you get access to the member portal and get in there. One of the other advantages to being a member is that you can go in and you can look at the Google Drive folder where all of this stuff is stored, and I will update it after scratches. So some of these picks won't necessarily hold true. When the scratches come out, things will move around. You can see those numbers if you have access to the portal. So you can see here, not a ton of top plays at Churchill on Sunday. Looks like a fairly even group, but what I like is that the A's on our board didn't come out too crazy. So when I was going through and looking at what the computer kind of spit out, most of the races have, 1 to 3 A's, as opposed to some of the races I've had the last couple days where there have been like 4 or 5 A's and then 3 or 4 B's. That's just not feasible to play on a regular basis. So I'm feeling really good about where we're at there. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the late pick 5 and see what we can do. I think it's pretty manageable today. And the main reason for that is I start off here with a really simple race. For me, this race is 6. This race is all about Englander. I like Englander enough. The early pace, I think, is going to be tough to catch this one. The overall speed numbers rate out really well for this one. It's co-top in class. There's just so many things that point to this horse being a really top selection. I think 3 to 5 at 7 to 2, it's a steal. At 3.5 to 1, 7 to 2, it's a steal. I would take this horse down to 9 to 5 personally. I'm going to start off pretty heavy with this one. Now, one of the things I think is interesting is the race says it could be quick, but when you look, really, there's only a couple of true front runners. One being the 6 Englander, and the other one being Thunder Ahead, who is further down here and further. What's interesting about Thunder Ahead is, for being a speed type, Thunder Ahead doesn't even factor anywhere on our speed chart. So I think this is going to be lone speed. If I was going to use one, I kind of actually like this Hell of a Life down here. Should get the best of race flow according to our numbers. If things do heat up, might have the best kick in combination with being close to the pace. So that's one that I've got my eye on. Southern Rags is also interesting from that closing aspect. If it does heat up, certainly that one seems to be the best closer. But in this situation, what I want to do is I want to play really heavily through the 6, and then if I get knocked out in the pick 5, I can always wheel back in the pick 4. But nevertheless, when I see gaps of 9 points in the overall speed numbers, and I see 10 points in our pace numbers, to me this looks like a horse that's just going to scamper away. I'm going to be all in on the 6. That's Englander. Moving on to race number 6 here, we're going to be a class level 5. So remember, the lower the number, the better the horses. This is one where I think you've got some really solid horses, and I think you've got a really competitive field. And I kind of went back and forth on my B line here as to whether or not I wanted to use the 2 and the 5, and I ended up doing so. Beau Luminaire to me seems like the horse to beat here. I've got that one at a value down to 2.5 to 1 or 5 to 2. Uh, Good speed numbers right up there with your to blame. Stamina wise, could get by. And later in the day yesterday at Churchill, I did see stamina starting to play a little bit more of a role. So that's something to be wary of. In terms of class level, it's competitive. I do think you're to blame is interesting as well. And since I'm using that one, and in a lot of these categories, Beau Luminaire is just behind, I'll definitely use that one as well. Major Fed is in this race and shows up in a number of categories as the top rated horse, so I'm going to use that one as well. And then one of the things I found kind of interesting about the horses that I chose. So I chose 1 who's a mid pack, 4 who's more of a mid pack, and 6 who's a closer. I'm at Churchill Downs that is forwardly placed. Right, that's our bias. We've talked about that before. I won't even say bias. I'll say profile. I like that word better. And we've got a moderate pace. It doesn't look like it's going to be insane up front. Well, the horses I like are going to be sitting kind of back in that mid packs, right here. Maybe not super far back for Beau Luminaire, but far enough back where they're going to have some ground to make up, and that's not always easy to do. So I am going to use the 2 and the 5. Not that I think either one of them is a great overlay or anything like that. In fact, both of them I have as underlays right now, but I'm a little nervous that with no speed up front, they're going to get out there. And I think for sure, if you're playing verticals, I think you want to flip those. So I think maybe the 2 and the 5, I might use them both in the first spot and then in the second spot as well. You don't need to use them in combination with each other. I don't think there's any chance Dean Martini and Olimi Boy are going to be the top 2 finishers, but I think you could go like a 2-5 over the 1-6-4 and then a 1-6-4 over the 2-5. I think that would be a very reasonable thing to think, but I wanted to include them just in case in my pick 5 we can't make up any ground, and now I'm stuck because I've just got everybody plodding through the back. Moving on to race number 7 here. This one, again, for me is pretty straightforward. I like Jerry B a whole lot. I know that Thundering Creed came out as an A. That's fine. I'm just not all that fascinated. Thundering Creed is fine. It's an early speed type, but it does tend to like to stalk a little bit. The things that really elevated this one are the record at the distance. And the form is, somewhat helpful, but if you look, again, this is an inverse, so lower is better. That's a pretty big difference. I'm not all that interested in that, but nevertheless, I think from a backup perspective, Thundering Creed makes some sense. And then you have Minute Waltz as well. Minute Waltz is one that's just going to be trying to get the lead, and I get a little nervous when you have somebody like Jerry B. If they just don't go with the 6, that could be problematic. These 2 seem pretty well clear of the 2, but I do have the 2 as well. I'm going to play heavily through front runners in this one. If I was looking for somebody to come off the back, it's hard. I just don't see a lot of horses. I mean, I guess it has to be Kona Kai, who is definitely at 20 to 1, is definitely for me an overlay. But not one that I think has a real legitimate shot to win. So I'm going to stick with 7 in the A spot. I really think this race should go through 7. Love the outside draw. And then 2 and 6 will be sort of in those backup positions. Race number 8 is one with a lot of runners, but I don't think it actually has that many different horses that have the opportunity to win. These are good horses. Obviously, Shoplifted comes back in this spot. Beverly Park is in here as well. You've got some pretty talented runners. The class level is 5. You can see that 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. Again, we're going to have that moderate pace, so you're going to want horses typically that are going to be closer to the front. What I think is really interesting here, and I think is really difficult, is When you take a look at run styles, you will notice that not one of these horses is a front runner. They're all versatile. So they can get to the lead if they need, but they can also stalk. And I think that makes the pace scenario really difficult to project because a lot of who goes to the front is going to be dependent on two things. Number one is the break, and then number two is intent, right? I don't think Shoplifted and Beverly Park are going to need the lead. I think they're going to feel like we've got this field, pretty well handled, and we'll just sort of see what happens and go. I think Shoplifted for sure can do that. I think Beverly Park less. So I think from the outside, Beverly Park's going to have to go and try and clear. What happens if Isolate just decides, like, my only shot at winning this is to just go as fast as I can and try and get out to the lead? You've got other horses that could do that. I mean, Flapjack, I don't think Flapjack's fast enough to get out there. But you've got horses like Lamartine, who really has no chance in this race. So why not just run as fast as you can and maybe hope that they let you get away with something? I think when you have situations like this, it just really muddies up the pace scenario, and that's why I ended up going four deep. Even though I think the 611 are pretty strong, I just wanted to kind of cover as much as I could of the horses that I think have a legitimate chance. And so I basically just kind of drew like a cutoff line right here. I don't like Flapjack in this spot. The overall speed numbers are good. The class is decent. But outside of that, I don't like horses that don't factor at all in race flow and don't factor at all in pace, because I think those are major factors in races. So then you kind of start getting into these horses down here, and I just don't like any of these horses at all. And so I'm going to go four deep here and hope that I can continue to advance. Overall, at Churchill, the last several days, things have been pretty successful. The algorithm is really doing kind of what it needs to at least put me in the right spot, and then just little tweaks here and there. So I'm going to be confident in that. I seem to be going really well here. Aqueduct has been a little bit of a different story, but we're playing Churchill for a reason. Then we're coming to the ninth race. This one projects to be a slow pace, but this is one of those things where I like to use our product as a handicapping tool much more than just like a tip sheet. And the reason for that is if you're just looking at the front page, the picks sheet, and you're just looking at this, you're saying, 12 and move on. Okay. The problem is there's a lot more to this race than meets the eye. Yeah, 12 makes sense here because 12 rates out best in a lot of categories. Because 12 is a known commodity, 12 has experience. You've got a pace projection of 12 out of 24, which is ridiculously slow. You've got a turtle, meaning that it's going to be slow, and that should set up for a front runner. But the reality is you also have, of the 12 horses, 13 horses that are registered to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 8 horses, if you count in here Combat Medal, 8 horses that are unknown. That's over half the field. So you're going to have to balance a little bit when you go through this, like, who do you want to use? And a lot of times what I then rely on when I have so many unknowns is I look to this ability rating, because when horses are under 3 years of age, this ability rating is pulling specific information about the horse's talent. That's what the ability rating is meant to judge, is how talented is the horse. Not the horse's jockey, not the horse's trainer, not how is the pace going to set up. This is just supposed to be the overall quality of the horse, right? If they were to run on completely level terms, horse against horse, who would win? And when horses are 2, it is almost predominantly using sire and dam sire stats. When horses become 3, they're sort of a merging of horses' past performance and dam sire stats. And then when we get into the 4-year-olds and up, then it's just all based on what they've done. But in these times where they're emerging, I want to make sure that I have some data on the sires and the dam sires to know who could be ready to spring a big price or spring a big performance. And I like seeing here, you've got this unknown at 5-1 who comes out with the best ranking. Now, not by a ton, it's just a 2-point ranking, but that's still good. I like to see that. If I were going to add in another one, I actually think I would be most interested in either the 13 or the 1. I think I could use either one. Obviously, the 1 provides a little better value, but in a race like this, where you're dealing with maidens, sometimes following that money is going to be important as well. So this is a great opportunity where if you're looking at the pick sheet, you're just going to see, 12, 4, 2, and move on. But when you come into it and you're like, okay, well, this is actually, a race where you're going to have maybe some unknowns, you can start to dig a little deeper. That being said, when it comes to my pick 5 ticket, I'm going to go with the 12 on top. I really do think this horse is the best, and I would take this horse down to 2 to 1 if I had to. 9, I would take it 4 to 1 or less. 4, I would take it 3 to 1 or less. And the 2, Benny's Fiddle, I think is a big overlay as well. I would take that one down to about 7 to 2. So those are where my win bets would be. But nevertheless, these are horses that I want to use in my pick sequence. And you'll notice that I do have all of them listed as A's, even though one of them, actually 2 of them, are listed as B's on the grade sheet. But again, using handicapping, personal handicapping, you can make modifications and adjustments from the algorithm. And in fact, that's what we would recommend, just to make it a more complete picture. So when we get finished with all of our handicapping here today, we are going to come in here and take a look at what we have. And you can see in this situation, I guess I did put the 2 on a B line when I went through and finally made this multi-ticket structure. I'm only going to press everything up one time today. I don't really have a strong opinion in terms of, oh, I really think all my A's are going to crush it today. I easily could have at only $13.50. That's an easy double punch, just to punch that ticket up to a $27 ticket. But I wanted to keep things as budget friendly as I could today, just in case my single in the first race. I'm putting a lot of apples in that basket. If it doesn't come through, I want to be able to wheel back and play some of these pick 4s. Coming back, and so I didn't want to have too much tied up in everything since I'm already so heavy through a single in the first leg. I like to give myself a little wiggle room in case I need it coming back. So you can see the different tickets here. I ended up moving one horse down to the C line just to make things more budget conscious. I think when I had them all on the B line, it ended up coming out to be like $102. So I was able to take a little bit off by just making the 7 horse here a C rather than a B. Outside of that, it's a pretty straightforward ticket. And like I said, 88.50 should put me in a good position. I was a little disappointed by the pick 4 payouts at Churchill and the late pick 4 yesterday. So hopefully we can get a little bit better value, and hopefully we can cash a ticket like we did back on, what would it have been, Friday of this weekend. So Churchill Downs meet is coming to a close quickly here, but we will have plenty of racing action for you on T3 handicapping moving into the winter meets, whether that be Tampa Bay Downs or Oaklawn Park, maintaining our Gulfstream stuff, as well as the California circuit. So things are slowing down at Churchill, but they're heating up everywhere else, and we will continue to add products and add tracks to our product as frequently as we can. But for all of your plays on Sunday, I would remind you that you can find all of our stuff through our social media channels as well as on our website, t3handicapping.weebly.com. Get access to all those tracks. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy your betting and cash those tickets.